Good afternoon and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 141 and I'm continuing stories from 1001 Arabian Nights. Now remember that Scheherazade had told the Sultan that though the stories that she had already told were amazing, they did not compare with the story of the fisherman. And so that next night, or early morning, Scheherazade began the story of the fisherman. Now, there was an old fisherman, and he had a family that he tried to keep alive through the fishing that he did and the fish that he caught and sold. And it was a struggle for him. He barely was able to keep food on the table and clothing on his children's bodies. They went barefoot. They didn't even have shoes. And if they were lucky, they had an old pair of sandals that maybe got passed down from one to the other and was so worn out by the time it got to the youngest that it wasn't worth much of any good anyway at that point. Every day he would go down, every morning he would go down to the sea and cast his nets out to see if he could catch fish. And most of those days, he would leave before the sun had come up. So by the time he got there, it was just beginning to break into day. So he had this one rule that he lived by, that each and every day he would only cast out his net 4 times. In those 4 times, he would hope that he would catch something. Well, he got down there, and it was just beginning to get light. And as was his habit, he took off his clothes, almost all of them, so that when he would go out into the water, he wouldn't ruin his clothing. And he waded out into the water, and he cast his net out as far as he could. And when he thought that perhaps he would have a fish in it, he began to pull it in. And he was truly surprised by how heavy, whatever it was that he had caught in his net, how heavy it was. And as he pulled it in, he thought, wow, this is great. I've caught an incredibly big fish. This is going to be wonderful. With it, who knows what I'll be able to buy. And he pulls it closer and closer. It's really a lot of effort to get this net in to the beach. And as what is in the net begins to appear above the water's depth, he sees that it is no fish at all, but only the carcass of a jackass. Well, he gets his net disentangled from this thing, and it's a smelly, nasty mess. And not only that, but it tore some holes in his net. So he had to spend some time fixing his net. He did. Then he cleaned his net to make sure that it wouldn't have a stench on it. And then he went out and he cast his net a second time. This time when he pulled it in, and he thought he had fish, and it did feel there was some weight in the net. Well, by the time he got it in, he saw that it was nothing but sticks and rocks. And he was disappointed. Now he was beginning to feel more vexed than he had when he pulled that jackass in. He felt quite vexed then, and you can guess it only grew at this point to realize that, this is not my day. Well, again, he cleaned his net and made sure it was in good repair and went out, waded out again, and this time he cast it for a 3rd time. And each time he cast it in a new spot. And he began to pull it in. Again, he felt some weight in the net, and he thought, this is going to be good. It feels like I have quite a few fish in here. But he gets it close to the edge, and he sees that it's nothing but a bundle of rubbish garbage that someone had thrown into the water. He pulls it in, and he is now really distraught. He wasn't the kind of man that would get outwardly angry and stomp his feet and cuss and that kind of thing, but he was not happy. He was feeling like this is not going the way I would hoped it would. And he cleaned everything out again, made sure his net was okay, and this time he kind of looked up into the air and he said, "Fortune, please, shine upon me at this point. Help me, to catch something this day." And so he goes out again, and once again, he casts his net out, and he pulls it in. And there's not much in there. He can tell. There's a little something, but not much. And he pulls it in, and he realizes that inside of it is a vase. And it's a metal vase. It's a bronze metal vase. It's still fairly shiny and somewhat tarnished. And he looks it over very closely, and the top of it is sealed. The top, it's a small hole going into the vase, and it's sealed with lead. And in the lead, there's a stamp, some sign of something that he doesn't really recognize. He pulls his net in completely, gets it up on shore, and now he really begins to investigate this vase. He thinks, wow, I can take this to the founder, and I'm sure he'll give me something for it. I'll probably have enough I can buy a pretty good measure of wheat, and at least we'll have chapatis for a couple of weeks out of this. He thinks, she shakes it, he can't hear anything, but there's some weight to it. He's thinking there's got to be something precious inside. I think maybe I should open it up and see if there isn't something inside before I take it in to the founder. So he takes a knife that he has with him for cutting the net when necessary, and he pries this lead cap off. And as he does, he's taken aback because this black smoke begins to come out of the vase and rise up into the air. And it's thick and it's dark. And he puts the vase down on the sand and backs up, sitting down with his knees up, watching this black cloud just continue to come out of the vase. And it goes up into the sky and covers a huge amount of the sky. It drifts out over the ocean, out over the beach, and then eventually, when all of it has come out of the vase, it begins to collect and condense. And in a moment, standing before him is this huge genie with scaly legs and arms and dark hair and bright orange eyes. And he looks down at, the old man says, "Master of the genies, I'm sorry, I will never disobey again." And the old man looks up at him and says, What are you talking about? Tell me who you are and tell me your history." And the genie looks more closely at the old man, and he says, "I don't need to tell you anything. Nothing. But I will give you one chance to tell me something before I kill you." "Kill me?" said the old man. "What are you talking about? Why would you be killing me? I just freed you from this vase." The genie says, "I will tell you why, if you'd like to know. But the one thing I will allow you to answer me is in what way you would like to die." Well, the fisherman stopped and pleaded with the genie. He said, "Please don't kill me. I have a wife and children that I must take care of." "I'm sorry," said the genie, "but your fate is sealed. You are going to die. Just tell me how you would like to." Well, at this point in time, the old man said, "Please tell me your why. Why do you need to kill me?" He was just trying to bide some time. The genie said, well, after I was sealed up in this vase for having disobeyed, the first year I was in this vase, I pledged that whoever should find me, I would make him the richest man in the entire world. And for 100 years, I vowed that that's what I would do. In the next 100 years, I vowed that whoever freed me, well, I would make him a Raja, and I would give him 3 wishes a day that he could ask for. After that 100 years was up, the third 100 years, I said, whoever should free me, well, I will make available to him everything in the world will be at his disposal, and all of the laws of nature will be his to rule over. And when no one came for that next 100 years to free me, I decided that whoever should free me after that, I would kill them. And the only thing that they would get is to be able to decide how they would die. You freed me. How would you like to die? Well, the fisherman looked at him and said, I don't believe you were really in that vase. If you're going to kill me, you have to prove to me that you were able to fit into that vase. I don't think you can. How could you? You couldn't even get your toe in that vase. The genie said, fine, I will show you. You see, that little bit of time, the fisherman, he had to figure out something because he didn't want to die. He had a wife and children to take care of. And anyway, he'd done nothing but good for this genie. He shouldn't have to die for doing good. Well, the genie, he began to turn himself back into smoke. He went up into the sky, blackened the sky out over the ocean, over the beach, just as he had originally when he'd come out of the vase. And once he had entirely turned into this huge black cloud, he began to enter into the vase again, little bit by little bit by little bit. Into the vase, that black smoke went until the last little bit of smoke went in. And the genie spoke from within the vase and said, see, I told you I would fit in here completely. And as he did, the fisherman took that lead top and placed it right back over the opening of the vase. The genie tried to get out in any way he could, and of course he couldn't, because the power of that lead seal, well, it was an enchantment that the genie could not break because it was made by the head of all of the genies. I think the fisherman had some words with the genie once he realized that he couldn't get out, scolded him for wanting to kill the one who freed him. And I think he also said something about throwing him out into the deepest part of the ocean and then building a hut on the beach right there to warn anybody not to try fishing in that area, and if they did ever pull up the vase, that they were never to open it. Stuff like that, because he did not want to ever see that genie again. As far as I know, after that day, the fisherman counted every day as a blessing. And even when things didn't quite go the way he wanted them to, I've heard that he was always known to have said, it's all good. Okay, hope you enjoyed the story, and have a good rest of your day or evening or morning, whatever it may be.